So, what is cocaine at a kind of structural level? What is the chemistry of cocaine? So, cocaine can be found in multiple different forms, and it'll be used differently in different forms as well. So, the first form is that cocaine can be isolated as a water-soluble hydrochlorine salt, so it's called cocaine HCl. And as this water-soluble salt, then it can be administered either orally, via an IV, or intranasal routes. Now, it is susceptible to being broken down by heating, so if you heat this cocaine HCl, then it can break down, and then you no longer have functional cocaine. Now, the water soluble HCl can then be recrystallized as a free base structure. So how that works is you take this water soluble salt and then you extract it with an organic solvent. And we'll actually talk about some of those organic solvents in a bit in the next slide. But what's important to note is that most of these solvents are very dangerous and are also very hard to remove from your finished product. So you're not going to get as pure of a cocaine sample with your free base than you would with the water soluble, because you're not going to be able to remove all of these solvents. And then you've also got where from your free base, then you can heat it with baking soda, and this is how we get crack cocaine. So heating the cocaine with baking soda leaves a distinct trace that can actually be identified in urine. So it actually, by heating it, then we're creating a kind of byproduct that is found in urine and sticks around long after the cocaine leaves your system. Now, both your free base and crack cocaine can be delivered by inhalation. So both of these can be ground into powders and then snorted. So how do we purify our illicit cocaine? So cocaine is purified by an acid-base extraction. Okay, so that's talking about those solvents we just talked about. So we've got cocaine will be purified by partially drying the leaves. We'll then ground those leaves up with an alkali. And usually the alkali will be a powdered cement or lime. And remember, lime helps it stick around longer, helps it keep its potency. The alkali mix will then be soaked in a solvent, such as gasoline. So you can probably understand now why our free base type cocaine isn't so good for you, because if we can't remove all of the solvent, aka gasoline, then when you snort or take this free base cocaine, you're going to also be snorting or ingesting some gasoline. So this alkali mix is soaked in your solvent for 24 hours and then pressed to create a crude extract. So that's where you get that powdered or like the blocks of cocaine that is pressed to get the crude extract. Now that free base cocaine can be phase extracted by a neutralization with an acid. So here we've got an alkaline, so that's the base. So we've got that block cocaine, but it's not really cocaine yet. We now need to add an acid, because that's how we do an acid-base extraction. So we now apply an acid, usually battery acid. So again, this is why free base cocaine, it's not good for you. You've got some gasoline and some battery acid mixed in with your cocaine. It's not going to be good for you guys. Don't do it. But we are able to extract the free base cocaine from this alkali gasoline mix that's been pressed by adding acid. So from that, then we've now got our cocaine. So the cocaine is then precipitated, so it's removed from this entire solution with a caustic soda. And what we end up getting is that dried paste, which is only about 40 to 60% pure cocaine. Now that processed cocaine is reprocessed and recrystallized at specialized labs after sale. But during the process, we only get 40 to 60% pure cocaine. And after that, more steps are needed if you want even more pure cocaine. So you can see it's a whole big process, and all of this is just to yield that free base or the salt cocaine. If you want crack cocaine, you have to do even further steps. So it's a big, long process, and this is one reason why it may be more expensive than other drugs, because it requires so much work. Now, what are the pharmacokinetics of cocaine? Smoking and snorting cocaine are the most rapid ways to get cocaine into the central nervous system. Okay? So here we have time on the x-axis, and then plasma cocaine concentration on the y. Not central nervous system concentration, but plasma concentration, okay? And now intravenous is very quick. We see that. However, intravenous crack cocaine or cocaine use isn't very popular. And so I guess that is technically the fastest way. But the most popular, quickest ways to get cocaine into the system is by either smoking it, so that's the red line here. You can see how it shoots up very quickly, or snorting, or intranasal. And that's this dark blue line. Okay, so smoking and snorting are the two most popular, quickest ways to get cocaine into the system. Now, these administration methods, as well as oral, which is this green line, they are pretty quick. Oral does have about a 30-minute delay until you start to see the concentration in your system, but it also has a pretty quick half-life. So cocaine will only stay in your system for about 30 to 90 minutes. So right here is 90 minutes. So by 90 minutes, then our smoked, which is the red line, intravenous, light blue line, all of their effects are about over 50% declined. With our intranasal oral, it does last a bit longer, probably more like about 2 hours it'll last, but you do see that decrease in the effectiveness and the concentration of the drug in your system. Now, when we go to test someone to see if they have cocaine in their system, then we're not actually looking for cocaine. What we're looking for are metabolites that are formed from cocaine. So cocaine itself in the body is metabolized by esterase, specifically the esterase CYP450. And this is happening in the liver. And there's two metabolites that we can look for. So there's coca-ethylene, which is an active metabolite formed in the presence of alcohol. So if you take cocaine and alcohol at the same time, then your body will form coca-ethylene. And this lasts longer in your system than cocaine. And it also does have some greater cardiotoxic effects. But if you were to take crack cocaine, which remember, you take your free-form cocaine and heat it with baking soda, then one of the byproducts is this methyl methylcogoniidine. That CG is really just confusing. But methyl G is what I call it. So methyl G is produced by that heating of the cocaine, and we are actually able to then detect this in the urine for a long period of time after someone has used crack cocaine. Now, methyl G, as I call it, it's not a psychoactive. It's just a byproduct of the synthesis of crack cocaine. But we are able to use it as a marker of the amount of time since administration of cocaine. Okay? So this is showing how it all gets into our central nervous system quickly, into the plasma quickly, but can it cross the blood-brain barrier? Turns out, yes. Cocaine is very easily able to cross the blood-brain barrier. And that's because cocaine is amphipathic. That means that it's both hydrophilic and lipophilic. So, one side of the molecule is hydrophilic, another side is lipophilic. So depending on how it turns around, it's able to cross whatever membranes it wants. And because of this, it will cross and be absorbed across that blood-brain barrier very quickly. This is where the methods of inhalation and intranasal administration result in very rapid uptake into the brain. Because in both cases, then the drug is getting into your system very quickly and it can act on the brain super quickly, whereas with like an oral dose, then it's going to have to go through the stomach first, and it could actually be, we know that there's enzymes there that affect the potency of oral administration cocaine. So it is thought that because cocaine is able to get into the brain so quickly, and it creates this high so quickly, that this is why cocaine is so addictive, because it's so quick. Because you get a high that can last from 5 minutes to 30 minutes, but it happens right away. So very quickly you get high, but then it falls off. Also very quickly. So you're more likely to take more drugs to get that high, and you're having to take the drug more often in order to get the high, and that's what can contribute to the addictiveness of the drug, because you're kind of just always taking the drug in order to get there. It's not like other drugs where their high will last a lot longer. So you're kind of always in that need for the drug. Now, what are the effects of cocaine? Well, there are some subjective effects. So you could either experience euphoria or you could experience dysphoria. So the effects on euphoria and dysphoria are proposed to actually occur through mood amplification rather than a specific effect on your mood. So depending on what mood you're in when you take the drug, it really just amplifies that mood. And so many psychoactive effects are very subjective and depend on the history of use, what dose you're taking, your environmental context, all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so keep that in mind when we're talking about the other effects, but really keep in mind that either euphoria or dysphoria can happen. And even if you're someone that's taken cocaine before and experienced euphoria, if you're down in the dumps that day and take it again, you may experience dysphoria. So you're not always going to experience one or the other. It's very subjective. Okay? Now here's the list of other effects of cocaine. You can read through them. We've got increased energy, increased alertness. We've got some negative things like increased blood pressure and heart rate, seizures, stroke can happen. But one that I want to talk about would be anxiety. We can cause anxiety. and psychosis. So paranoia and formication can also happen. So you can see I've put those ones in bold a bit so that you know that those are some ones that we're probably gonna talk about a bit more, guys. So if you don't know what formication is a sensation of itchiness or tingling under the skin that resembles feeling of insects crawling on or under your skin. So you've probably heard of that before, especially people that they say they've had a bad trip. So if they take cocaine, they get high and they experience these negative effects instead of the positive effects they may have wanted, then one of the stereotypical things that Hollywood loves to show us is formication. So the feeling of something's under your skin and people scratch at it and try to get rid of it, but there's really nothing there. So acute effects typically occur with a single dose in non-users. So single use, you'll just get some of the less bad ones. But with more severe effects, including dysphoria, occur often with prolonged use in heavy users. So usually first-time cocaine users will experience euphoria, and then as you continue to use it, and heavy users will then start to get some of these negative effects. But again, you could still experience dysphoria your very first time.